everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Tropical Cajun. Tonight I'm going to be making one of my family's favorite meals, shepherd's pie. I'll have a little bit of a Cajun twist on it. It'll be sure to be a crowd pleaser anywhere you take it. It's great for potlucks or family gatherings, or just a way to say, hey, I'm thinking about you, here's something great to eat. So let's get cooking. Okay, for this recipe, what you're going to need is you're going to need a pound of ground beef, pound to a pound and a half of a tube of breakfast sausage, a whole onion, some olive oil, some seasonings. I have here one of my very favorites, Badia complete seasoning. I'm also going to throw in there a little bit of Tony Chachere's. For the vegetables in the shepherd's pie, you're going to want to have some green beans and some corn. Also, I have a bowl of cooked potatoes here that we're going to mash towards the end. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to saute some onions. So we want to just put a little olive oil into a preheated skillet. I'm using an iron skillet. And you just kind of want to do a rough chop, nothing too fancy. They don't have to be tiny. I always like big chunks of onions in my food. So if you don't like big chunks of onions, maybe cut them a little smaller or even put them into a food processor. Okay, just a rough chop there into that nice hot olive oil. And we're just gonna stir this a little bit until the onions become translucent. Okay, wow, that was quick. These onions are ready to go. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and throw a little bit of minced garlic into this mixture. I would say probably about a tablespoon. Or 1 to 2 cloves. I'm just using pre-minced garlic. Okay, and now we can go ahead and put our meat in. We're just going to start with our hamburger meat first and get that kind of broken up. And then we'll add the sausage in about halfway through cooking the meat. If you cook on iron, you know that this little sucker right here gets hot. So if you don't have one of these little grate guys, go to your nearest craft fair, and I'm sure you can find some. Those are awesome. So we're just going to kind of break this up a little bit and get it started browning, and then we'll throw our sausage in. Okay, we're getting pretty close to being done here. It's about to the point where we want to go ahead and add our seasonings. Okay, so we're going to add just probably about a tablespoon. And you do this to taste. Tony Chachere's can be pretty salty and pretty spicy, so, you know, however much you like. And we're gonna go, now with the Badia, you can be a lot more generous. This has very little sauce, it's salt, and it's loaded with flavor. Okay, we'll go ahead and combine this, and we're gonna throw the sausage in. The sausage is gonna give it a really great flavor, because you know breakfast sausage has all that delicious flavor of, you know, the spices that they add to it. So in that goes with the meat, and we're just gonna break it up. A little tip here is this is also pretty inexpensive, and this can definitely make your meat go a little further and feed more people. So for big families or big gatherings, a little secret is just to add a little sausage. It also adds some fat to the meat. If you're using lean ground beef like I'm using here, it'll add a little fat to the meat, which will keep your shepherd's pie really super moist. Okay, so we're getting really super close here. Don't be too concerned about it being a little underdone. Remember, it's gonna go in the oven and bake. So what we're going to do now is I'm not going to add any additional salt to this because the Tony's is pretty salty, but I am going to give it a little bit of black pepper. Just to kind of give that meat that yummy flavor that the black pepper offers. So this is almost ready. Okay, so we're pretty much done here. This is going to be the base of our pie. This is going to go into a greased 9.5 by 11 pan. I have one right here. I'm going to go ahead and give it a good spray here. All right, and don't throw your skillet away just yet. We're going to use this thing again. Okay, there is the base of our shepherd's pie. Nice thick layer of yummy meat. Okay, so step 2. We're going to take a little bit of bacon grease. And go ahead and let that melt in the skillet. Bacon grease is great to flavor a lot of things. It's also a healthy fat, so it's not bad for you. I'm not going to go so far as to say it's good for you, but it's a healthy fat. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and saute our green beans to give them a little bit of flavor. I just opened a can of green beans, and that should be plenty for the pie. We don't want to overwhelm it with a lot of veggies. And I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of sugar in there just to bring out the flavor of the bacon. And a little bit of salt and pepper. Okay, I'm gonna let those saute for a minute. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and throw these green beans right on top of this meat mixture and just kind of layer it over, spread it out a little bit. And we are going to throw the corn right on top of that, just right out of the can. And I failed to mention one of the most important ingredients of this dish is cheese, of course. We need cheese. So we're going to put about a cup of shredded cheese over the top of the vegetables. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it. That might be a little more than a cup, but we're cheesy people, you know. Okay, second to last step, we're gonna make some mashed potatoes here. So I am going to make these in a way that I was inspired by Reed Drummond. She makes mashed potatoes like this, and I thought it was such a fabulous idea. I have some softened butter here beside me, and I am going to just take a hunk off of it here and throw it in this, about a half a stick. I could probably do a whole stick, but we're also going to throw in there some cream cheese. So I have some softened cream cheese here. I'm going to use about half a block. And we're just going to mash it all together. Little cook's tip. On a weeknight, if you want to do this quick and easy, you can definitely use instant mashed potatoes. I have done that plenty of times. And it turns out pretty good. Everybody seems to like it every time I make it. But tonight, we're using Yukon Golds. We're getting real tonight. Okay, all kind of blended. We'll go ahead and start adding the other good stuff to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some pepper in there, a generous amount of black pepper, and salt, because potatoes are so starchy that they require a lot of seasoning, so quite a bit of salt. I'm using pink Himalayan sea salt, and the health benefits of this are really great. Definitely don't have the side effects as you do with iodized salt, so don't be afraid to get generous with that pink Himalayan sea salt. It's kind of good for you. Okay, now we're going to put about 3/4 of a cup of milk in there. and mash them all together. These are gonna be the creamiest mashed potatoes you've ever tasted. These are great in the oven as a baked potato, or as a potato casserole. You can definitely add some cheese to the top of this, put it into a 9.5 by 11 baking dish, and sprinkle some bacon on top. Serve with a side of sour cream. You've got a twice baked potato casserole on your hands. Really good stuff. Just get them as creamy as you can get them. Okay, so now we're gonna add our yummy, creamy, delicious mashed potatoes to the top of our shepherd's pie. I'm just gonna do it with a nice big scoop. And that will make it a little easier to spread. And if I have a little bit of leftover mashed potatoes, I don't think my daughter's gonna be too upset about that. All right, and one of the most delicious parts about shepherd's pie is the potatoes. So you definitely want to get generous with those. Okay, and then just a quick spread over the top. See how easy that is to spread when you use the scoop? It makes it so much easier to spread. Okay, now here's another little cook's tip. Have you seen sometimes when you've had shepherd's pie in a restaurant that it's a little toasty brown on top? Well, here's how you get that done. I'm gonna teach you a trick. Okay, so we're just gonna beat a little bit of an egg white here. Just a little bit, just kind of get it, you know, kind of separated a little bit. And then we're gonna paint this on the top of our shepherd's pie. And that's gonna give it that beautiful toasty look that you see a lot of times with like twice baked potatoes and that sort of thing. This also works really well on like pretzels. When you make your own pretzels, it also works well on any hard baked breads like sourdough. Little secret. You don't have to use all of it, but just kind of coat the top of it. Okay, there is our shepherd's pie. We're gonna go ahead and put this into a preheated oven at 375 degrees and we're gonna let it cook for about 30 minutes. Okay, so I've had the shepherd's pie out of the oven for about 10 minutes on a cooling rack, so the pan is kind of cool to the touch. So I'm going to go ahead and serve it up. It looks so delicious. Look at that. Look at the little toasty edges from the egg whites, and the potatoes are nice and firm. All right, let's dig into this bad boy. I'm just gonna cut it into squares and we'll see if it comes out in squares. I have a feeling it's gonna be a little messy. And you know, the first piece is always the hardest to get out. Boom. All right, look at that. There's your green beans. There's your corn, your cheese, your mashed potatoes. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to dig in. Bon appetit!